Is anybody still here? I'll give it a few minutes, see if anyone is still hanging around. We had some technical difficulties. Hey, how are you? Yay, people are still here. Hey, everyone. I'm glad y'all are still hanging around. We had some technical difficulties. I don't know where the live button is, apparently. So we'll give it a few more minutes and see if other people are still waiting for us. How's everyone doing so far? Hey, everyone. Hey, Professor Navarro. I don't know everyone, so I'm just going to say hey to everyone. I got a thumbs up. I like it. Can I get a thumbs up or a thumbs down on how everyone's doing? Got some hearts. I like that. All right, well, I am Alicia. I think we'll just kind of let people filter in. I'm Alicia Money. I'm from the Counseling Center. I know I've popped into y'all's meeting this semester and last semester. My days are all starting to blend together. I don't know about y'all. So I just want to pop in, talk about some self-care, some stress management. How is everyone doing with self-care while we're all kind of self-isolating and not being able to see everyone? Lots of thumbs up. I like it. Is anybody feeling stressed? We don't have any thumbs down, so I don't want to rock the boat. Okay, I like it. Lots of thumbs up. So I want to talk about some self-care tips, some coping strategies. Is everyone getting out for walks or maybe a breath of fresh air? I know we can't go too far these days. We are coping, I think. All right. A little bit. Max. We're coping a little bit. We're trying. We're doing the best that we can. Does anyone do any mindfulness or exercising? Any stay-at-home exercises or walking around the block? You might get tired of the schedule you set up. It's hard because I know I try to set up a daily schedule, but some days I'm just like, I don't want to do that today. So it's hard to stick to a routine, but that's one of the best things to do is to set up a daily routine, even if we get a little tired of it. Sometimes we might have to change it up a little bit just to see. Running around the block and then coming home and working out. Home exercises. Okay. So it sounds like y'all are doing pretty good. This is my makeshift office and gym where I can do a little working out too when I'm not trying to do a little bit of work. Because how are we adjusting to getting ready for all online classes? Is there any stress around that? Board games with the family. I like it. Any Uno? We're an Uno family. It gets a little violent. Well, not violent, but it gets a little aggressive sometimes. Staying up and not sleeping. Howdy. My sleep schedule has been very crazy. So I'll agree with that. Because I'll wind up and I'll be watching Netflix and I'll end up and it's 3 o'clock in the morning. So then that makes it harder to set up my schedule for the next day. So you've got to kind of keep your routine the same as it was before we went all online. Oh, you're the champ. I like it. We'll have to play again once we're not all isolated. So So setting a routine. So I've been trying to go to bed at like midnight-ish or so. And if I can do that, that's a good day. It's much better than staying up till 3 in the morning. So you've got to keep your routine somewhat similar. Sorry. Some of the classes deadlines didn't change. Oh, that's tough. Is that Tina? That's really tough. Have you tried talking to your professor? I would say try to talk to your professors and maybe see if some grace, because these are different times. I understand. Yeah, I see a lot of questions about the sleep. Staying up late and waking up late. Yeah, I woke up the other day at like 11:30 and I was supposed to be on a webinar. So again, I would say everyone needs to set a schedule and decide what time you want to try to go to sleep and try to but get back on somewhat of a same groove. Because the days are all starting to blend together, at least for me. So some days I don't know if it's Tuesday, if it's Friday. But yes, I agree with Professor Navarro. The professors should extend and understand under these circumstances of trying to switch to a completely new format is completely, that's not asking anything unreasonable. Yes, I thought today was Thursday too. I have no idea what day it is. But I think if we can get outside some, I see a lot of y'all were doing home exercises and taking walks around the block. I think those kind of help give us a little bit of perspective, as well as it's good for mindfulness. In these times, it's crazy because, and I'm sure anxiety is super high with everyone. I know at least for me it is some days. So you have to find ways to kind of cope with that anxiety and to keep it, just kind of keep yourself grounded, keep yourself focused. Because anxiety is that fear of the future. And to be honest, we don't know anything at this point. We don't know when we'll get back to classes and have face-to-face. We don't know how long we have to self-isolate. So it is confusing times. Arts and crafts. Arts and crafts are amazing. If you are an artsy person, I'll be honest, I'm not always an artsy person, but when I do arts and crafts, I love it. And it is really therapeutic. It's a good way to kind of get your mind unfocused. And you can just kind of draw or color. I like to color sometimes. Or even just making things. Even just something simple like, I don't know, drawing something, or even like origami. We all have paper at home sometimes. So even if you learn how to do origami, that's pretty therapeutic, and it gets your mind off of what you're afraid of or what you're focused on. And that might be a better way to kind of go about it. So yes, I agree with arts and crafts. And I saw someone was talking about cookie decorations maybe yesterday. So that's another good way of kind of getting your mind to do something else and getting refocused. Professor Navarro says she's been showing you some. So is it looking like the rest of the semester will be online? At this point, I think so. But again, don't quote me on that. But that's our understanding right now. And the counseling center is working to go online, telehealth counseling. We're waiting on the district for that. So if you're already a counseling student, you should be checking your email to figure out ways. You should be checking your email for ways to get reconnected with your counselor. All right, people are ordering cookies to decorate. I like it. Lots of craft ideas. Again, I'm not that artsy, but crafting is, if you sew, crochet, even just doing different things with your hair, sometimes that can be very artistic and creative, and that can get your mind on something else as well. Sometimes it's good just to get up and get dressed like you are going somewhere, even if we don't really have anywhere to go, but that gets your mind shifted into a different focus. Well, thank you. I'm glad y'all appreciate the counseling services. My background and education. So I have been at Richland since 2009. I started part-time. So I got my master's degree from Texas Women's University. And And I started doing counseling with domestic violence and sexual assault counseling. And so from there, I started doing college domestic violence counseling at Richland through a project called START/the B Project. And that's how I kind of got introduced to Richland College. So my background in counseling is definitely domestic violence, sexual assault, depression, anxiety, shame, self-esteem, all of the above. Professor Navarro, dresses for the live feeds. Yes. Yes, TW, T-Dub, representing. So that's kind of my background. Again, I've been there since about 2009 part-time, and then I've been full-time almost 10 years. That sounds a lot longer than I thought it was, but you know, working with the students has really been great for me. Any questions on my background? I know I did that kind of quick. So I'll just keep talking. So some other coping styles. I know we've got a lot of art and crafts. Working out is always good. And we talked sleeping, not enough, but is anyone sleeping too much? That's another question, because I know sometimes I'll just get sleepy in the middle of the day and want to go to sleep, but that's not my normal routine. And so sometimes that's the body's response to anxiety or trauma or fear, is to just go back to sleep. So you have to kind of watch those cues as well. Daphne, you slept a lot the first week. I did too, because honestly, I thought it was just going to be a short-term thing. So I think I was just trying to get a lot of rest, but I'm realizing now it was really my body adjusting. Advice for dealing with family in the house and you need to study. That's a tough one, because everyone is just trying to make it at this point. So it could be you have to schedule time with your family, like, okay, from 2 to 4, I'm going to study, and this is going to be my time to study, and see if they can kind of respect those boundaries, and maybe people can find other things to do. It's harder if it's kids because they don't understand time frames. I know a lot of people have had to adjust to also trying to teach kids while also trying to study as well, which is also another struggle. So I would say try to talk to your family if that's possible, and see if some kind of boundaries or time frames can be established. Or it could be that you have to stay up late. That might be your best time to study, is staying up late. Sometimes I'm a night owl. So that might be what you have to do, is you stay up late once everyone else goes to sleep, and then you have to adjust that way. Sonia, you sleep early and wake up early? Oh, nice. Well, not nice that your head hurts, but it's good that you're able to kind of stay structured and routine, because I think that's going to be your best bet in the long run here. Hey, we still got people joining. Welcome. So structure, setting a routine, something artsy. And I'm not sure if y'all do mindfulness or not, but mindfulness will keep you focused in the present tense, rather than focusing on the future, because we don't know what the future is holding right now. But we're hopefully this ends soon, and we're all able to be face to face and not as isolated as we are now. Because isolation and not being able to go outside or do things can also start to lead to depression. So we want to make sure mentally we're staying focused. Journaling is huge. That's a huge one, because you've got all these thoughts in your head, and if you can't talk to anyone, where are those thoughts going? So I love journaling. I love that you said that. Tips on how to stay motivated. And I will come back to mindfulness. Tips on staying motivated. You have to remember what your why is. Why are you doing whatever it is that you're supposed to be doing? So what's the reason that you started college? Focus on your motivation there. What's the reason that you're in those classes? What's the reason you decided on your major? Use that for your motivation. And it could be that you start with starting your days with something positive, or I think it was Daphne said something talked about journaling. Maybe in your journaling or in your morning routine, you say something that you're grateful for. And sometimes that helps to set your mindset to a positive focus in the mornings or throughout the day. I'm getting tongue-tied. But sometimes even just one thing that's positive, I woke up this morning, or, I don't have to sit in traffic today. Something that's positive that can get your mind focused. I'm going to make cookies today. That's a positive thing something that you're looking forward to. So try to think of something that you're grateful for every day, and that will help to keep your mind focused, and that could help with your motivation as well. And mindfulness, I'll go back to that. So mindfulness is like, I know someone said they take walks. When I take my walks, I don't take my phone so that I can stay focused in the moment. I can hear, it's using your five senses mainly. So what do you hear? What do you see? What do you smell? And really just kind of letting nature surround you and not be focused in your thoughts. That's a lot of mindfulness. Or even if you're eating something, and that's another thing we've got to watch out for, is that stress eating or that emotional eating. But when you're eating, if you slow down, a lot of times we eat so fast that we don't necessarily recognize what it tastes like or what it smells like or the texture of the food. So again, mindful eating, slow down and really just focus on what it tastes like, what it smells like, what the texture of the food is, and use those five senses while you're eating. And that's a quick way to kind of bring yourself back to the present instead of just eating while you're watching Netflix or while you're watching Hulu. But really just focus on the food and what you're doing in that moment. And that's mindfulness. I do not know when summer class registration begins. Mindfulness is excellent for panic attacks. Anytime you can use your five senses, that is a great way to kind of bring yourself back to the present and refocus. So that's a really good one, Daphne. And I think I missed something else. I don't know when summer classes begin. Yeah, sometime around mid-April, but I'm not sure how that process is going to look with everything going on. I think I missed another question. But yeah, so coping styles. So, and we also have to watch the eating, because I know I find myself just snacking. I don't know about any of y'all, but I snack often, which is kind of negating me going out for walks or me working out. So you have to kind of watch, what's the reason that you're eating? Are you eating because you're hungry? Or are you eating because you're stressed? And maybe drink that glass of water to see what's really going on. Professor Navarro is going to keep an eye out for registration and let everyone know. And I can also send out, and I'll talk to Professor Navarro, some mindfulness things that can be sent out by email if anyone is interested in that. So that way, if you want to practice it, or if that's something you want to start incorporating while we have a lot of extra time, I can send that out to the ALAS email, and hopefully that'll get out to everyone. So got people rolling in. Hey, Antonio. Any other questions or concerns? Or any videos? Yes, and I just heard about, I think it's Amherst College are doing daily Zoom mindfulness things that are free for everyone. And I'll also send that information too. Sonia's been eating her quarantine snacky snacks. You and me both. You and me both. So I keep running out, and then I'm like, well, wait, I can't go back to the store, or I got to hold off on going to the store. So we got to ration them out a little bit better. And I know Daphne mentioned anxiety attacks. Has anyone been having anxiety attacks? Who are my mentors? That's a really good question. And who inspires me? I have a really good mentor who's also a counselor who I met. She was my supervisor, and she really keeps me grounded. One thing that we learn in counseling is that we can't work harder than our students. We can't work harder than the other people. So I have to kind of find that balance of doing what I can, and of doing what I can and what I can't, and letting the other person do the work. Professor Navarro, every time you watch the news, it seems like, yes, limit how much we watch on the news. That's really important, because sometimes we do have to unplug. Because if we just sit and watch the news all day, we might go crazy. I don't know if crazy is the right word, but it's a lot. It's very overwhelming. It's very stressful. And if we keep watching the news, I'm not saying don't ever watch the news. You've got to stay informed, but if you overdo it, it's too much. If you're feeling overwhelmed, or if you're getting those panic attacks or anxiety attacks, it's too much. Watching caffeine definitely helps. Caffeine can spike up your anxiety. So what you eat determines how you feel. So if you're feeling sluggish or draggish, it could be all the chips and the cookies and the quarantine snacky snacks that we're all eating. Yeah, and caffeine can definitely keep you up late at night. So you also have to watch your chocolate intake, because chocolate does contain caffeine, right? So even though chocolate might help us in the moment, that doesn't mean it's doing what's best for us in the long run. And I think I answered all of those. I think who inspires me, I think y'all inspire me. I think the students inspire me, because y'all are going through so much, and also still maintaining great GPAs and volunteering and being awesome in the community. And with everything that you have going on, you're still able to keep moving and keep putting one foot in front of the other. So I think that's really what inspires me. And I think that's what gets me up every day. Daphne, you're good. Only dark chocolate. That's really good. Alexa, trying to keep a balance, eating food that's good for the brain, but every once in a while snacking. And I think that's good. I think everything is in moderation, because if you never eat anything that you want to eat, when you do eat it, you're going to go off the rails, and that's not going to help either, is it? So I think you've got the key there, is finding that moderation. How was my experience going to school and working as a woman of color? It was difficult. So my undergraduate, I went to Langston University, which is an HBCU. So I think from going from that to TWU, where I may have been the only Black person or the only woman of color in my class, I think it was hard to relate to people a lot of times, or I don't think people understood me. So I think at times during my graduate program, I didn't feel connected, which seems weird in a counseling program, but they didn't always talk a lot about diversity or what was going on, counseling issues from the African American perspective. So I think I had to really fight to get that voice heard and to help them to understand. Not that it wasn't a good program. I think it was a very good program, but I think the diversity was lacking. And then I was working as well through my graduate program, so I was exhausted a lot. And at times, stereotypical, they may have just seen that as not being interested, which wasn't the case. But, sometimes that's just how they saw things. So I had to kind of fight a lot of stereotypes in my program, as well as even just kind of getting my foot in the door with different internships and having to fight a little bit harder just to get them or to find them for women of color. So that's a really Daphne, I might need some of those chocolate kisses. Any recommendations? To be honest, at TWU, I didn't do a lot of clubs. And by the time I got on campus, it was 5:45, which was when my classes started, and most of those clubs and programs were done. I do know that everyone on campus seemed really they seemed really invested, and they seemed very close. So I do think there are a lot of programs and clubs to get involved with, depending on what your major is and what you're interested in. I think it's just a matter of getting involved. And unfortunately, I couldn't do that a lot with working. By the time I got on campus, everything was closed or done. So I was just there for class. How do you handle? You know what? That's a really good question, Alexa. When you're dealing, it's hard. It's balance. Balance is my favorite word. Um, it goes back to not working harder than somebody else. It's hard when you have a student who it's hard when you have a straight A student who their family life keeps them from, being great or doing everything that they can. And so many times I just want to like take people home with me or put them in my pocket. But you have to find your boundary because at some point they have to figure out how to pick themselves up too. Because it's a matter of, it goes back to someone who asked about motivation. What's their motivation and what's their purpose? And how do we find the common ground to get them to pull themselves up? It's hard. Sometimes I go home and I think about my students and other ways that I can help them, or, I put a lot into finding other resources or other ways that I can help students. And some days are better than others. So it's a balance. It is hard, and when you're passionate about it, you have to keep going, but you have to find your balance so that you can sleep at night, because the more that you sleep or the better that you're taking care of yourself, the better you can help them. So it's all about, a lot of times we push until we're exhausted and we can't do anymore, but that doesn't help them. So that's what you have to realize, is how do you also take care of yourself while helping someone else? So that was a really good question. And going back to you, Daphne, I think TW does have a lot of really good programs. I do highly encourage you to get involved, because the more involved that you are, the better that you'll do. The more connected you are, the better you'll do. So I do encourage you to do that. Perfectionism. That's a tough one. I think with perfectionism, you have to find, I'm going back to balance. You have to find your balance. Because we all make mistakes. And I think that's the struggle with perfectionism, is that if we make a mistake, then we're going to beat ourselves up. And if we beat ourselves up, because all we're doing is we're just making ourselves feel less positive about ourselves. And the more positive we feel, the better that we'll do. So you have to figure out how to learn your lesson from any mistake that you make, rather than focusing on it and beating yourself up. You have to figure out what the lesson is that you learn from it, so that you don't make that same mistake twice. That's the key. And you have to figure out what a healthy goal is. So you still want to have goals, you still want to strive to be the best, but if you fall short, is that still okay? Or does that mean you can't ever do that again? So you have to find your balance of going forward and what's a healthy goal and what's unrealistic. A lot of times we have unrealistic expectations, like I have to be perfect 100% of the time, but that's not always realistic. So what is a perfect goal for you, not for someone else? Because they may have different support systems or different things that are going for them that you may not have, that you have to hop that obstacle. It doesn't mean you can't do it, but you have to do it in a different way. Okay, so you realize you had to find balance and set realistic goals, which is exactly right. Panic attacks are scary. You can't breathe and your heart's racing fast and you don't know what's going on. That's an awesome lesson that you're sharing. I'm glad that you are sharing that, because it's hard to move. It's hard to figure out what that healthy balance is in the middle. And you just know that I need this. If I get this 4.0, that I can get all the scholarships. But if you get a 3.9, that doesn't mean you can't get all the scholarships. You just have to focus on it a different route. Yeah, I've got really good questions today. Any other questions or concerns? This too shall pass. I think that's a really good one. And I also like to, sometimes I have to realize that certain things aren't, I always say I have to stay in my own lane because I can't fix everything. So I often say that a lot to my students or, just oftentimes to my coworkers, like, oh, let me stay in my own lane, because a lot of times we try to fix everybody else's things before we focus on ourselves. And that's really hard to continue moving forward, because if you're just focused on everyone else, then what do you have to give yourself at the end? So yes, this too shall pass, and stay in your own lane are definitely things that I often say to myself. Y'all are good. Anybody else? I mean, we talked about sleep. We're all going to set our alarms to know when to go to bed tonight, right? And that way, we'll at least have a better chance of getting up at a decent time tomorrow. Well, tomorrow's Saturday. I think today's Friday. So yeah, maybe you can sleep in tomorrow. You may not have class stuff. If a student is in a serious crisis, they can, I can't believe I can't remember the number. There's a text crisis line that you can text, and I have to find it. And there is also National Suicide and Crisis Hotlines. You can contact any of those if someone is in a serious crisis. If you're looking for your Richland counselor, you can email either the counselor directly if you have it, or we have a counseling RLC email. They send it out in an email. Perfect. If you email the counseling RLC, that will get forwarded to your counselor as well. Or you can be on the list to know when we finally get set up with telehealth so that we're doing online counseling. But we are still here. RLC Counseling is still here. We're just figuring things out in the background right now, just like you guys are. And I think it's also important with where we are in this situation. I think it's just important to take everything day by day. So don't worry about next Friday, for example. You've got to focus on today. Today's Friday. What do we have to get done today? And we'll worry about the rest later. And that can also help with reducing anxiety and stress as well. Tips on how we can help other people even though we are in quarantine. That's a good question. Sending people cards. I've been doing that. That's been one of my projects. Because we can't go see people, but you can put a card in the mail and someone will get that, and that can brighten up somebody's day as well. FaceTiming, checking in with people. I think it's important. It's more important now to stay connected with our family and friends than ever before. So even if you can FaceTime someone and just check in on them, leave someone a package on their doorstep. Just kind of little things like that might brighten someone's day, which also makes us feel good as well. So that also helps with boosting our mood. So I think that's a really good question. It's all about being more creative at this point and finding ways to stay connected. I know there are lots of different people that do different things on Instagram Live, or other ways that you can connect to people in the community without, kind of keeping it at a distance, and just kind of finding that those things that you're passionate about, that will help kind of further causes as well. Because sometimes it's hard. We think, if we get too invested or too overwhelmed, we think this is all we should be focusing on. But the reality is that other things are going on as well. And if we were passionate about it before, you can still channel your energy into it. It just has to look a little bit differently. But I think cards and letters to send to people, I think that's a really good idea. Even drawings, if you don't like to write, you can draw. Going back to those arts and crafts, or those, I know some people were making masks to give to hospitals for donations. So even anything that you can think of to do, Don't ever think anything is too small. If you think about it, there's a way that it can help somebody else. A lot of times we think our ideas are not big enough or they're not good enough, and that might go back to some of that perfectionism. But the truth of the matter is that anytime someone realizes that you're thinking of them, that helps them. Any other concerns, questions? I see some hearts going up. I like those. All right, guys. I'll give you a couple more minutes, see if anyone's still typing. Any more questions? I am doing okay. Other than not being able to get the live to work earlier, I've been trying to focus on eating healthy snacks for the most part, maybe 80% of the time, and kind of getting those daily walks in. I've been setting my alarm lately so that I don't sleep till like noon. And so just trying to keep as much of a routine as I can. Obviously there's, concerns and, worrying about my parents, things like that. But I think for the most part, I'm doing okay. What new hairstyles have I learned? Well, I've got these lovely cornrows in right now. So that's all I've done right now. I've never done them before. So we'll see what happens since the salons are all closed, we'll see what happens in about a week or so. Maybe I'll pop back in and see if I have a new hairstyle. It's going to get a little tricky. Setting alarms throughout the day to do other tasks. That's a really good idea because I get stuck sometimes. So I'll just get tunnel vision and I don't realize I need to do A, B, or C. So setting alarms throughout the day, I like that. What am I expecting after quarantine? To be honest, I haven't let my brain go there. I think that's the focusing on one day at a time aspect, because there's no telling what it's going to be or what it will look like or even what classes will look like. So I think for me personally, I try not to think that far ahead because I can't control it. So I think that's something to kind of think about and bring you back to the present, and stay more reality based because we don't know what's going to happen. Lots of hugs. I like that. Yes. I do miss hugs. I didn't know I was that much of a hugger until now that I can't get hugs. At 4:00 cocktail hour. I have been doing virtual happy hours with friends, so that's also been something I've been implementing. So a real one would be nice. I didn't realize I like to go out to eat as much as I did until I could not go. So this quarantine has definitely gave me a lot of self-reflection, and a lot of refocusing. So I think that's what we do need to focus on is where do we want our priorities to be? And that could be something that you also think about in your daily morning routines is what do you want your priorities for that day to be? But I think we have to stay focused on where we are today because we don't know what's going to happen in a week because this thing is changing so much. That was a good question, Alexa. I'm envisioning everyone just kind of going around hugging everyone once we get out of quarantine. Did I answer all of your questions? I have enjoyed talking to the students. I apologize again for being late. I got it down though. And please, again, I'm around. I will send that stuff to the Gmail account. But I'm around All the counselors are around. We're here. If y'all need anything, please let us know. Professor Navarro knows how to get in touch with me as well. So please let us know if you need anything, because we're here. And I can pop back into another live, or maybe, yes, they can email me directly as ALAS members. My email is, it might be easier if I email it out, but ELLICIAMONEY@dCCCD.edu. And again, feel free to, you have my email address. They can email me if anyone questions or has anything they need to ask. I'm here. So please, please, please email me, email the counseling center, whatever you need. We're here. It's a crazy time. And although we are self-isolated, yep, there it is. There's my email address. It is a crazy time. It is highly stressful, highly anxious. If y'all need anything, don't feel like we're going through this alone. Even though we are self-isolated, we are still here for you guys. All right, I will give a couple more minutes in case anyone has anything else they're typing, but that's all I've got for today. But my email address is on there. If anyone needs me, I am here. I respond. Let me know. You're welcome. Thanks for listening. I hope y'all have a good day. Set routines. Stay in the present. And do some arts and crafts. I want to see them all when we get back on campus. All right? Bye.